Welcome to the Friday podcast, number 94. I just woke up Saturday morning. I passed out yesterday. I was gonna record yesterday, ran out of time. I just woke up and I had this fucking crazy dream that, so work was crazy, but we survived it. It was the first week with the kids back at school. Chaotic. I was on my feet all week. Last night I passed out. Woke up just recently. I had this crazy dream that me and my family, my boys, went on a vacation and we went to the spot that was like, it was this giant ass pool. And a lot of people that I knew were there. And we had a room, right? And in the room, it was me and my family, but then me and my friends would come out and we would, cheap it up, drink it up, and everybody was cool with it. And then we went to, there was like a bar place where you could get free food. It was a blast. It was a blast. And I feel like my mind was like, yo, you need a vacation. It took me on a vacation in my dream. And it was amazing. It was fun. It was hilarious. I didn't take my anxiety medication that night, so my dream was very vivid. For some reason, when I take that anxiety medication before I go to sleep, my dreams, I don't remember them. But this one I fucking remembered, and it was amazing, And it was funny. My sister was there, my family was there, my best friends. It was wild. Anyway, I'm in a hurry, right? I got a birthday to go to, birthday party. So I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna do like Bobby Lee and not wear a fucking shirt because now that I'm looking at it, I look ridiculous. But maybe this will inspire me to work out more. What was the topic of the worst argument you've ever had? Money. It's usually always money. Do you vote in every election? No. But I vote in some. And I voted in different parties, But it is what it is. I don't really want to go into that. Do you think there is always something to be thankful for? Heck yeah. Vision, mobility, ability to communicate, hearing. Definitely reasons to be thankful for, always. How do you feel about the statement, home is where the heart is? I 100% agree. Last year when I had hard days at work, as soon as I got home, it just all went away. You know what I mean? I got birds singing, I got trees, it's just, home is where the heart is. It's where you can be yourself. What is one thing you thought existed but doesn't? Oh, what did I think existed but doesn't? That's pretty hard. What did I think existed but doesn't? In a way, aliens? I don't know. I think a lot of those UFOs are Project Bluebeam. Or military psyop. I don't think they're actually like green dudes. But who knows? I still don't know. But there's a big chance that Project Bluebeam, look that up, with the ability to put stuff in the sky and make it look real, Also, I learned about Lucifer and Satan and the devil in the Urantia, and I thought they were all the same person. Now, maybe it doesn't matter, but it's definitely something to think about. What creative source or outlet do you often visit to get fresh ideas or renew your creativity? Definitely YouTube. Shout out to YouTube, man. Even though they censor some stuff, YouTube is definitely one of the best places as of right now. What do you need to learn to make time for? Man, I don't know. Oh, exercise, definitely, because I look like a fucking 15-year-old. My son probably has more muscles than I do right now. What are your bad habits? This is one, but it definitely helps. Another one that definitely helps. I quit corn, but every once in a while, like yesterday, I watch a little bit and just unload, which I shouldn't need to, but it's definitely not like it used to be. What's the biggest personal change you've ever made? Starting to read the Bible and also starting to study philosophers, which I brought some philosopher quotes to read. But I really think so far that's the biggest change. Like I made this little stupid thing, but I like it. I like to look at it. It's like a leaf and a crystal and some grass and some stick. I even put that blue thing, I don't know why, just for contrast. I see those little things that they make in on Instagram. Instagram kind of inspires me too. But those little mini aquariums and stuff, the terrariums that they make, I find that so cool. What is your favorite animal beginning with the letter A? Holy shit. Ants are kind of annoying, but they're pretty cool. Aardvarks I never see. Is there a bird that starts with an A? Ostriches with an O. Okay, I'm gonna say ants because I can look at them and they're very interesting. If you could star in any play you choose, what character would you want to portray? Michael Corleone in The Godfather. I would love to be that. That'd be pretty cool. Are you a left brainer or a right brainer? I don't know. I use both sides, I think. Something you want to forget. Nothing. Even my drama and my mistakes and my cringe moments, I need all of those. I don't want to forget anything. How many serious relationships have you had? One, two, three. I think only 3, but they were a long time. One of them was like years. If you are musically inclined, whom would you want to have a private jam session with? I do feel like I am musically inclined, and I would love to have a jam session with J. Cole, Mondrell, Bone Thugs. I'm thinking about rappers that are alive. Of course, I say Tupac, DMX. I'd be afraid to fuck with Eminem because I feel like that's straight up Illuminati, but it would be cool to fuck with Eminem a little bit. All right, moving on. We got those. Let's see. So, the other day at work, I was leaving, and I was talking to a coworker. Shout out to the music teacher at my job. And I saw a big ass locust on the ground. And I was like, whoa, look at this locust. And then it jumped. And I don't really see locusts. So, spirit-animals.com says, first of all, Locust symbolism urges you to overcome self-destructive behaviors. To put it differently, an encounter with the spirit animal is a message for you to stop engaging in any harmful activity to your health and well-being. Alternatively, the appearance of this insect could be a sign that your actions are hurting those around you. Thus, locust meaning says that you should learn and practice empathy in your everyday life. This definitely goes with my mental breakdown that I had last week. Additionally, like the raccoon dog, or the tanuki, I assume, locust symbolism can represent the need for you to seek greener pastures. If a job, relationship, or someplace isn't favorable to you, this insect teaches you to cast your fears aside and move on from it. Furthermore, when this power animal visits you, it says that you should watch the company you keep. If the people in your circle aren't adding significant value to your life, know that you'd be better off without them. Also, locusts are symbols of intuition, transformation, health, abundance, fertility, and longevity. SpiritAnimalsAndSymbolism.com says that the locust is an interesting insect with a surprising spiritual meaning, symbolism, and totem. In many cultures, the locust is considered to be a symbol of famine and plague, but it can also represent renewal, hope, and new beginnings. Get on my way, little fly. Locusts have a wide range of symbolism and meanings, depending on the culture and context. WorldBirds.com says that the grasshopper or locust can also represent abundance, achievement, astral travel, courage, fearlessness, fertility, forward moving and thinking, happiness, intuition, longevity, leaps of faith, patience, peacefulness, wealth, and virtue. SymbolismAndMetaphor.com says that locust bugs are generally harmless to humans and are considered spirit animals in many cultures. They symbolize wisdom, success, and courage. Pretty cool, right? Sorry. Pick that up. Totally missed the one that hit the camera. All right. Next up, angel number 240. Actually, let me take a break real quick. All right, I haven't had my morning. I hope this has really helped me. But I pulled up to this random one, so let me read a random quote by Buddha. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. The Buddha. It's not easy. You definitely need spiritual guidance. It's wild. And also I try to stretch and work out as much as I can because it's a physical job. And I try to study these quotes because it's a mental job. And if you're not physically and mentally strong, it's gonna be difficult. Just like any job, for the most part. All right, jump into the angel number of the week. 242. The Secret of the Tarot says that 242 is closely associated with the meanings of the numbers 2, 4, 22, and 42. These numbers remind you that it's within your power to achieve your goals and dreams. Your angels are guiding you to realize that your life is in your hands. I thought they were like, I was like, why do they look like that? Your angels are guiding you to realize that your life is in your hands. You are the master of your fate. Sunsigns.org says that angel number 242 comes with interesting numerology. 2 is mentioned twice to emphasize empathy. 4 meaning is that of a practical number. It speaks of clarity and light. Number 24 is the number of transparency. It brings out the truth of issues that are hidden. 22 shows balance. It is the act of the universe to prevent a paradox. Angelnumber.org says that angels send this number to people with 242 because they want to make them realize love is not a job, task, or duty. You cannot command your heart, no matter how rational you are. Open up to new opportunities. Experiment a little bit. We are sure you will discover the magic of passion eventually. Angelnumber.co says that 242 is a lucky number. It is associated with good luck and success in both personal and professional life. Specifically, angel number 242 is believed to represent financial security, good health, and long lifespans, strong relationships, happiness, and the ability to create a positive impact on the world. AngelManifest.com says, 242 signifies that your angels are with you and will provide you with the bravery and strength you need to continue on in life. Guardian angels are around to protect and console you through tough times. You continue to work diligently and efficiently. If you continue to work diligently in this manner, you will achieve your goals. And last but not least, TrustedPsychicMediums.com says that the number 4 implies truth, hard work, focus, integrity, and enthusiasm. In the angel number 242, the number 4 is sandwiched between the two twos. The vibrations of number 2 imply balance, insights, adaptability, and sensitivity, through which you are encouraged to love yourself and others. This is definitely going into the recycle bin. Let's see if I can. Nice. Okay. Sorry. Moving on. Anxiety news of the week. I found this kind of interesting. From yourtangle.com. 8 ways type A and type B personalities express anxiety differently. Now, I don't know if this is true. I just thought this was interesting. So I don't know. Okay, so it says that it doesn't matter whether you're a type A, overachieving organizer, or a type B, laid back slacker. Many people have to learn to deal with anxiety. So even people you see as outgoing and king or queen of the world, or those who are so laid back they couldn't possibly stress a thing, can struggle when it comes to dealing with anxiety. Sometimes it's easier to tell who's anxious from who's not, but an individual's personality type can play into how anxiety presents itself to the outside world. Here are 8 unique ways in which a type A and type B personality express anxiety differently. So, number 1, talking too much versus avoiding doing something. So an anxious type A person will take on the world, literally. When anxiety kicks in, type A personalities sink their teeth into a bunch of projects and frantically chew themselves out. Most will complete everything they said yes to, but might kill themselves in the process. Type B is another story. Type B personality will avoid, and avoid, even if the issue is staring them right in the face. Type B will dig several different tunnels to busy oneself and hide out, doing meticulous work, but still won't do or face what they need to. All right, number 2, constructing social situations versus completely avoiding them. An anxious type A might take to constructing and organizing social situations and parties, not just because they're good at it, but because it might minimize anxiety. Planning and choosing everything can minimize anxiety for a type A in a lot of ways. Avoiding people they don't like, maintaining predictability to soothe any anxious feelings, and providing comfort and knowledge ahead of time to make an event more enjoyable. Type B love to avoid when their anxiety comes to a raging head. It's not that this situation where someone is introverted, it's a situation where type B is anxious and avoids social situations To avoid feeling uncomfortable around new people, evade discussing or confronting something or someone that may be present in a social situation, and quell the fear of being inadequate or not knowing how to behave in the situation. The individual could really want to see the people involved in a social gathering, but there could be any number of reasons why their anxiety will keep them home. 3, behaving in an irritable manner versus behaving in a passive-aggressive manner. I'm starting to see that I'm a type A sometimes. Type A's and B's could behave in either manner due to anxiety. You may see more type A's prone to getting outwardly irritable. It's not that type A wants to be being rude, sorry guys, but a situation or person could make them anxious, leading to irritable or grouchy upon facing that person or situation. When confronted, the type A personality is more apt to admit that they're anxious and frustrated. Type B might behave in a more passive-aggressive way, afraid to say outright that something or someone is making them uncomfortable. This individual also doesn't mean to be difficult, but since avoiding is the anxious type B's biggest default behavior, they might be prone to being passive-aggressive for fear of completely spilling out anxious feelings. All right, number 4, making excuses instead of saying no versus being unreachable. Type A will have lots of excuses for why they just can't make it tonight, or why they won't be doing something. You might never get a straight answer, but you'll get an answer of sorts. Type A person likes to be prompt and RSVP, so they won't avoid you, but you'll get a runaround. Sometimes coming clean about your fears is just difficult. Type B will probably retreat into a man or woman cave or be too busy to get your calls, texts, and emails instead of talking about it or giving you an excuse. Type B will just hibernate socially, maybe even just from particular people they feel will know right away what the problem is because the anxious response or make them confront the issue before they are ready. 5, obsessing over being perfect versus shrugging off desire completely. Maybe I'm in the middle. Type A will kill themselves to make something perfect. The person will cancel plans with you and be late, dealing with whatever they are obsessing over. Perfection is not impossible in this person's eyes, but just a tiny bit difficult to achieve. Type B was laid back enough that they can act as if something doesn't really matter, even if deep down inside it really does. They'll end up convincing themselves that it didn't matter if something didn't happen to them. Doing this makes the anxiety lessen and keeps the person from admitting how they really feel. 6, choosing every wellness activity under the sun versus taking a quiet path. Type A will try to control their constant worry with an arsenal of activities that would tire anyone out. Each day will have another activity: walking, yoga, meditation, therapy, and so on. You name it. And type A will resort to organizing, perfecting, and constructing a treatment to combat anxiety. Of course, this plan will often only mask the issue. If only the type A would stick to a few things instead of overdoing it. The concerned and worried type B would choose a path to combat those fears. This is often more effective than type A strategy. However, sometimes a nervous type B could benefit from taking more action. Number 7, refusing to ever give up versus retreating before receiving the results. Determination is wonderful, but when it's clear that something is a no-go, it would be nice for the anxious type A to walk away from it. That might not happen though. A worrywart type A will steer the course no matter how bad the storm and no matter if the boat is about to sink. Type B will take their worries with the white flag. This person will give up, even on something that matters a lot, to dodge what could happen. And by what could happen, we mean anything from success to failure. The feelings are too overwhelming. And finally, number 8, pressure to win versus seeming apathetic. The nervous type A will be at rocket high stress levels trying to win. for fear that if they lose, everyone will deem them a failure. And that just cannot happen. Type A's hate to lose, but an anxious type A will be worried that losing will kill their social status altogether. It might seem like the type A is just a jerk, but it's really a deep-seated need to be loved and accepted. The hand-wringing type B doesn't care about winning, but if they are stressed over losing out on something, the response is different than the pressure type A. They pretend that losing doesn't matter. They can seem almost indifferent, but it's more than the worried type B really cares, which is unlike type B behavior. In this case, the person would rather hide these feelings than call attention. Fucking thirsty, dehydrated. I'll be right back. All right. I'm gonna do my series review of the week. Probably should have did this one last week, but that's when I saw it. I Am Groot. I saw these shows right after my mental breakdown. Okay, so I had my little breakdown. I hit up my sister and I was like, yo, can I come kick it? I went over there, we conversed. It really helped. Sometimes you just have to talk to somebody who understands what the fuck you're going through, right? And we both came from the same home, but we did have different outcomes and different experiences. They were very similar. And also talking to someone from my generation kind of helps, because I think our generation is a little more adept to handling trauma from parents instead of just holding it all in. Oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. I was about to get the baddest woman in history. We'll do that next. So I Am Groot. It was lighthearted, funny. It was cute. It was interesting. I saw it at the perfect time. I needed something lighthearted. You know what I mean? Because I was going through something heavy. So if you're going through something heavy, it's always cool. It reminds me of the old school Looney Tunes. So it's really interesting. I mean, it's one of those things that we don't have a lot of anymore. And a lot of times adults are like, oh, that's for kids, that's for babies. I want to watch something. And even kids, sometimes I want to watch stuff that's for kids for some reason now, because they're used to watching Stranger Things and scary shit. But I Am Groot was, it was hilarious. And bad thing about it, it's super short. The end credits are long. But what's cool about it is in the beginning with the little Marvel thing, Groot fast forwards it. And I know they did that because they knew it was so short. But I mean, it takes time to make a fucking show like that. You know what I mean? Like with the animation, the CGI, and with all the negative attention that Marvel's getting with their CGI and stuff, which, I mean, quit. Right? Those people can quit. But I don't really see, I mean, if it's bad CGI, I'm not that particular. If the movie's good, fuck it. I came up from when CGI was fucking horrible, so I'm not spoiled by that shit. I mean, you know, that's just me though. I give the series, for a short series, the way it is, a 4. It's not deep. It's nothing like that, but it's very lighthearted, it's cute, it's funny, it's something that you might need every once in a while. So, I Am Groot. I Am Groot. Pretty cool. And then when they have the Rocky Raccoon at the last episode, it was pretty dope. Trying to remember a particular thing. Oh, whenever he thinks that he kills that whole society, it's like they think that's gotta be in his mental as he gets older. You would think, but then he becomes a jerk as a teenager. But oh, and then he has a little battle with the bonsai tree, which is pretty cool. And then he feels bad about the bonsai tree, so it shows, you know, guilt and jealousy, but it also shows that, you know, he feels bad, and then he tries to take care of it even though it's like dying and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like watching a kid, so it's funny. Kids are funny. They can be hilarious because they're just not They're not embarrassed by everything that we're embarrassed by. They're not constantly thinking, oh, people are going to judge me for this. They just say what they want to say, do what they think they should do, and it's just wild. But it's cool. I mean, that's what makes it interesting. I am Groot, 4 stars. All right. Moving on to the badass woman of history. Badass woman of history. Margaret Heffernan Borland. Born April 3rd, 1824, passed July 5th, 1873. Was a pioneering frontierswoman who ran her own ranch as well as handled her own herds. She made a name for herself as a cattle baron who was famous for the drive of Texas longhorn cattle that she took up to the Chisholm Trail from Texas to Wichita, Kansas, with her 3 surviving children and her granddaughter. To date, she is the only known woman in the history of the United States to run her own cattle drive and was considered one of the first cattle queens after being widowed thrice. Early life. Margaret Heffernan was born to Irish immigrant parents on April 3rd, 1824 in Ireland. Her parents were born there as well, but they sailed to America and arrived in New York City when Margaret was 5. Her father was a candle maker who moved to Texas after he was having a hard time making ends meet. In 1829, when a land agent told Margaret's father about money opportunities in Texas, the Heffernans moved west to find fortune. The government was offering incentives as well to families that supplied their own tools and were able to sustain themselves for a year. If a family was able to do that, the government would give a yoke of oxen, a cart, 10 milking cows, and a league of land. In addition, the family was required to practice Catholicism and to speak Spanish for business purposes. Margaret was 9 years old when she arrived in Texas. The family was part of the McClellan-McLoin colony that was aiming to place around 200 families into Texas. Once arriving in Texas, the family settled on land that was surrounded by the wild prairies near San Patricio in South Texas. There, Margaret's father fared well with the Texas cattle industry, along with many Irish settlers, as the cattle industry was a common occupation for Irish settlers in the South at the time. Very interesting. Margaret's father died shortly after at the hands of José de Urias forces during the Texas Revolution prior to the Texas invasion by Santa Anna. Along with her father and another cousin, her uncle, his wife, and their 5 children were murdered in the same attack. The surviving family fled to a fort at Goliad. The family returned home when news of recent successful campaigns against the Native Americans had reached their camp. Unfortunately, they were only able to be home for a short period before escalating tension with Mexico caused the government to advise residents to move from the area for protection purposes in October 1836. The family went to Brazoria, Texas. The family was there at least 2 years before moving again. Margaret's mother would never remarry, and she died in Victoria, Texas in 1849. Marriages and family life. In August 1843, Margaret married a man named Harrison Dunbar. In the 1840 census, Harrison Dunbar was listed as having 30 head of cattle, which would have set Margaret up for the beginning of her own career in cattle. Margaret gave birth to their daughter, Mary, in 1844, but Harrison died shortly after her birth from wounds he received in a pistol duel. Margaret was only 20 years old at the time. Imagine being 20 and your husband just got shot after you gave birth and he died. Shortly after, in October 1845, Margaret was remarried to a man named Milton Hardy. In the same 1840 census that showed the cattle count for Margaret's first husband, the census showed her second husband had 2,912 acres of land, as well as having 5 additional lots in town. They had 2 children together in the following 2 years. 2 girls, Eliza, who did not survive infancy, and Julia. The couple owned slaves, and in Milton's 1847 will, he made a note that a slave he owned named Louisa and her children were to be freed upon his death. In 1852, Margaret gave birth to another healthy daughter named Rosa. That same year, Milton contracted cholera during an epidemic that also killed their young son, William, and he died on August 24th. Milton had 1,200 heads of cattle at the time of his death. Louisa was not freed according to Milton's will, and she was forced to continue to care for Margaret's children and future children, where she was known to them as Mammy. Poor Mammy. Margaret was married for the third time to a man named Alexander Borland on February 11th, 1856. In 1858, Alexander participated in Victoria's first annual livestock exhibition. By the 1860 census, the couple had amassed the largest herd of cattle in Victoria, a number of 8,000. Additionally, they had together 3 boys and a girl named Nellie. The Civil War gave the Borlands access to millions of cattle that were free roaming in Texas due to many ranchers leaving their farms to fight for the Confederate States Army. By 1867, the Borlands opened their own store, but Alexander was not well. Since he had the money, Alexander spent it to see a surgeon in New Orleans, hoping to receive the best medical care. Alexander never returned to Victoria and died in New Orleans, leaving Margaret a widow for the 3rd time in her life. For Margaret, the tragedy did not stop there for her and her family. In the summer of the same year of Alexander's death, yellow fever was spreading across Texas. The town of Victoria was not spared during this time, and the first casualty for the family was Margaret's daughter, Rosa, who was only 15 at the time of her death. Margaret's firstborn, Mary, was next, and shortly after Mary died, her infant son died as well. Margaret's daughter, Julia, who was 19, and the new mom herself, also succumbed to the illness. Julia's husband, Victor Rose, who almost perished himself during the epidemic, left their daughter named Julia Rose with Margaret so she could raise her. With all of her children from her first 2 marriages now dead, Margaret began to bury her children from her most recent marriage. William was only 6 years old when he died in the same epidemic. By the time the epidemic ended, with the cooler winter temperature setting in, Margaret only had 3 surviving children out of the 9 she birthed. Her son-in-law, Victor Rose, went on to become a writer, editor, and historian, where he wrote about Margaret from an intimate perspective, so we are able to gain some insight as to who she was from someone who knew her personally. Victor said this of Margaret in the local newspaper, the Victoria Advocate: a woman of resolute will and self-reliance. Yet, she was not one of the kindest mothers. She had an unaided, acquired a good education, her manners were ladylike, and when fortune smiled upon her, at last in a pecuniary sense, she was perfect at home in the drawing room of the cultured, as if refinement had engulfed its polishing touches upon her mind and maidenhood. Imagine writing that about your mother-in-law. Interesting. Cattlewoman. After the death of Alexander, Margaret took on full responsibility for purchasing and selling her cattle. She had previously worked with Alexander handling the cattle and therefore had a fair understanding of how to run her ranch. She did receive help from slaves, relatives, and farmhands when it came to the actual physical labor required to manage and maintain the herd. Her brother James Heffernan stayed with her and her family and was considered to be a loyal and hardworking man who helped his sister during difficult times. She did face hardships still. In the winter of I wonder if she would have just let Mammy go. She wouldn't have all this bad karma, but who knows. Her brother James, She did face hardships still. In the winter of 1871 to 72, a freak blizzard struck Victoria and killed thousands of her cattle who froze to death due to the storm. Despite the hardships of the previous years, by 1873, Margaret had over 10,000 cattle. Margaret decided to sell some of her cattle to provide some more income. The problem was that the prices for Texas cattle were about $8 a head, whereas the prices for cattle in Kansas were almost $24 per head. Margaret made the unprecedented decision to be her own trail boss and to drive her cattle over the Chisholm Trail to Kansas. To do this meant she needed to take her surviving children and her young granddaughter with her, despite the dangerous road that lay ahead for them all. At the age of 49, Margaret made the decision to take her family and 2,500 cattle to Wichita, Kansas, in search of opportunity and fortune. Her bravery and courage to be the first woman to undertake this effort made the local newspapers and made her name well known in the South as well as the rest of the United States. Trail boss on the Chisholm Trail to Kansas. The family set out for the Chisholm Trail, which started in South Texas in 1873 with half a dozen hired hands in order to manage the herd of over 2,000 cattle. Margaret had to deal with trail hands that were superstitious and sometimes misogynistic, as they often saw women on the trail as a bad omen for them. It took the group about 2 months to make it from Texas to Kansas. During this time, they traveled at a leisurely pace to ensure the cattle were grazing enough and were not getting overly tired. Losing cattle to hunger and exhaustion was a real concern. They passed through Oklahoma before it was a state and was still considered Indian territory. Although it is possible that the group sold some of their animals to Indian agents to keep danger at bay for supplies, when the group arrived in Kansas, they still had a majority of their herd. In the year 1873, it is believed that around 400,000 Texas cattle total were brought into Kansas. Due to this influx, the cattle market crashed in the later part of the year, and the cattle the Borlands brought from Texas did not earn them the financial gain they had expected. In fact, most cattle drivers who tried their luck in Kansas in 1873 suffered a financial loss. Sadly, Margaret would not make it to see the cattle sold, as she took ill towards the end of their journey and would not be able to make a full recovery. After successfully reaching Wichita, Kansas via the Chisholm Trail, Margaret Borland was taken seriously sick by an illness known as trail fever. It also had been cited as congestion of the brain or meningitis. She ultimately did not recover and died in a boarding house. She never had the chance to sell her cattle before her death. The task was left to her surviving family members and those who she employed. The Wichita Beacon newspaper, now the Wichita Eagle, reported on Margaret's death with the following: "We regret to announce the painful news that Mrs. Borland, the widow lady who came up with her own herd of cattle about 2 months ago, bringing with her 3 little children, died at the Planter House Saturday evening with mania, superinduced by her long, tedious journey and overtaxation of the brain." Duck just flew over my head. Margaret Borland died on July 5th, 1873. She was 49 at the time of her death. Her body was then returned from Kansas to Texas so she could be buried in the state where she started her family and cattle business. Her sons Alex and Jesse brought her gravestone, which reads, "Our Mama, Margaret Heffernan Borland, born April 3rd, 1824, died July 5th, 1873. Gone, but not forgotten. Evergreen Cemetery, Victoria." Very interesting. It sucked that she had slaves, even though one of her husbands wanted her to free them. And maybe that was the cause of her bad karma. Despite that, she was still a badass woman to be able to do that and undertake that and handle that. And it's worth mentioning her in history. We shouldn't, erase her. And there, my friends, we come to the end of the podcast. I'm quite hungry, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to bust a freestyle, but I can try. Hey, yo, I'm hungry, but I'm not bummy. I got food in the fridge. I could cook it in the siege. Please don't burn my bridge. I'm going on a trail, never been frail, despite how I may look. I got the Holy Grail up in my brain. Sometimes it may seem I'm insane or deranged, but really it's plain, it's simple. Even though I smile and I might have a dimple, even though my face might have a pimple, my soul is clear and clean. I never fear, I dream. up here and seems like I could find the true light, the knowledge, the wisdom, spiritual truth. I can spit bars even when I'm not in the booth. I can spit bars even when it's not Bluetooth. Even back in the day when I was on analog, dial-up computers. Tag along and go with me to the past to visit different dimensions. Also in the future, we can see all the descriptions and divisions and starts to bring everybody together like a mission. No more division, no more subtraction, just addition to the faction. Fuck a reaction. Try to stay calm and quiet and then response. Fuck whatever you gotta say, I don't care the fonts. I don't know what else. I love y'all, appreciate y'all for coming. Thank you for sticking through the end, even though I'm shirtless, I'm sorry. I just had to rush outside and do this. I'm trying to look at the camera and this at the same time, and I'm making myself cross-eyed, so I need to start doing it. There's the camera. All right, I love y'all. Peace, love, happiness, harmony. Let me leave y'all with one quote. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Despite my little freestyle. Peace.